Hey everybody, it's Frank with the Deep End, and today I want to talk about what I believe is the most misunderstood number in swimming pool chemistry, pH. Now, I know some of you are already saying, wait a minute, what about chlorine? Yes, chlorine is your sanitizer, but pH affects how well your sanitizer performs, your length saturation index, scale formation, swimmer comfort, and even the life of your equipment. If you understand pH, pool care gets a whole lot easier. So let's jump in. Where should pH be? For years, most of us were taught to keep pH between 7.4 and 7.6. Today, you'll find many respected water chemistry experts who are comfortable allowing pH to run into the upper 7s and some even above 8.0 as long as the LSI stays balanced. I've evolved too. I don't chase 7.4 anymore. I'm comfortable letting pH run a little higher than I used to, but I still try to keep it below 7.9 whenever practical. Why? Because after intentionally operating a large number of pools that way here in North Texas, I found they generally became more difficult to manage. Even with properly balanced LSI, they usually needed more chlorine, they were less forgiving during heavy summer loads, extreme heat, spring pollen, dust storms, big rain events, basically whenever the pool was stressed. Does that mean every pool over 8.0 is going to have problems? No. It simply means that after managing thousands of pools, I found that staying below about 7.9 gives me a little more breathing room. Why does pH keep going up? Now here's the part that changed the way many of us think about pool chemistry: carbon dioxide. CO2 is the one biggest reason your pH rises. Here's the simple version. More dissolved CO2, the lower the pH. As that CO2 escapes into the atmosphere, pH rises. Think about opening a can of Coke. It fizzes like crazy, then after a while, not much happens. Your pool works exactly the same way. When you add acid, you convert some of your alkalinity into carbonic acid. Carbonic acid is simply dissolved CO2. That CO2 wants to leave the water. The farther your water is from equilibrium with the atmosphere, the faster it leaves. As equilibrium is approached, that climb slows down. Your pool isn't broken, it's just following chemistry. Now let's talk about alkalinity. Think of alkalinity as helping determine where your pH naturally wants to settle. Higher alkalinity generally means faster pH rise, higher equilibrium pH, more acid. Lower alkalinity generally means slower pH rise, lower equilibrium point, less acid over time. Traditional recommendations have been 80 to 120 parts per million. Today, many experienced professionals operate below that. Personally, I don't have one alkalinity target for every pool. I adjust it according to that individual pool. If a pool climbs in pH too quickly, I may slowly lower the adjusted alkalinity, but I always keep an eye on LSI. And I want to make something very clear. About 50 parts per million adjusted alkalinity is my floor, not my target. There's a big difference. Speaking of LSI, never chase just one number. The length saturation index tells us whether the water wants to dissolve calcium, stay balanced, or deposit scale. Every factor matters, but pH has by far the greatest influence. Always look at the complete picture. Let's talk about the slug pouring myth. Now let's kill one myth that's been around forever. You've probably heard somebody say, slug pour your acid in one spot and it'll lower alkalinity without lowering pH. Nope. Chemically, that's impossible. Every time you add acid, it lowers both pH and alkalinity every single time. So why do people think slug pouring works? Because concentrated acid attacks plaster. That reaction can contribute to a later pH rebound. People see the rebound and think the pH never dropped. It absolutely did. You just damaged your plaster in the process. That reaction can contribute to a later pH rebound. That rebound is caused by your plaster being damaged. Please, don't slug pour acid. Muriatic versus dry acid. So what should you use? Both work. Personally, I generally prefer muriatic acid. It's economical, it doesn't add sulfates, it's what most professionals use. Dry acid also works. It's easier for many homeowners to handle. But remember, every application adds sulfates. No matter which product you choose, use a dosing calculator. Don't guess. The higher your alkalinity, the more acid it'll take to move pH the same amount. Don't forget, other things affect pH too. Salt chlorine generators, waterfalls, deck jets, spa spillovers, bubblers, returns pointed to the surface. All of these aerate the water. More aeration means more CO2 leaving the water, which means higher pH. And here in North Texas, our fill water doesn't exactly help. It's usually high pH, moderate to high alkalinity, and moderate to high calcium hardness. Every top off pushes the chemistry a little farther uphill. Borates. One thing I'm a big fan of, 50 parts per million of borates. They don't replace chlorine, but they help resist pH climb, improve water fill, improve sparkle, and generally make the pool a little easier to manage. So here's my general philosophy. Keep your pH in the mid to upper sevens. Try to stay below about 7.9 whenever practical. Adjust alkalinity to the individual pool. Don't automatically choose 80 to 100. Don't automatically chase 50 parts per million either. Remember, 50 parts per million adjusted alkalinity is my floor, not my target. Keep your LSI balanced and always maintain the proper free chlorine level for your cyanuric acid. Pool chemistry isn't about chasing one perfect number. It's about understanding how pH, alkalinity, calcium hardness, temperature, carbon dioxide, cyanuric acid, and chlorine all work together. Once you understand that, pool care gets a whole lot easier. If this video helped you, give it a like, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who is tired of fighting their pool chemistry. I'm Frank with the Deep End, and we'll see you on the next one.